Police interviews always go the same way. First, I let the scumbag wait 15 minutes or more until they're starting to wonder if they've been forgotten. Then I make a loud joke outside, something about gas or traffic or my blood sugar levels, and I enter the room with my beer gut and shirt stained yellow at the pits. I offer an iced tea or Coke before collapsing in my chair with a fat grunt, loosen my tie and wipe my brow, push the table against the wall with my foot. Now I can see their entire body, and I can watch their every little movement for clues as to my way in. I keep my face disinterested, of course, almost apologetic. This is just paperwork after all. Everyone here knows that you're not our guy. Most suspects start talking right away. They're eager at this point to get their stories out, so they trap themselves. Details, specifics, inconsistencies, holes. Most days I feel like a line worker at a factory looking for defects. But the man in front of me today is different. He doesn't even flinch when I offer a Coke or an iced tea. In fact, he's stone-walled before I even walk through the door. His cool, narrow eyes follow me as I act out my routine. When I wipe my sweaty brow with the back of my hand, when I heave my feet up on the table and lean back, making a big, stupid show of it, the man leans back too. The hairs on my arms raise. This is a man with a system. A man accustomed to evading consequences. He's probably air-gapped himself from his crime and knows we can't pin him with what we have, so I cut the shit and go in hard and heavy. You posed as the owner of a foreclosed house on Pine, I say. Fake name, alibi at the bar called Malone's, cash deposits from 3 victims stuffed in your pockets. The kind of trick that lands a man 6 if he's sloppy enough to end up in that chair. The man's eyes narrow, his head tilts. He's young, but when he smiles, there are deep lines around the mouth. Go on, he seems to say. The email you used for the property advertising website is linked to an online banking service who have provided us with a picture of your face and driver's license. I click my teeth with my tongue. That was not a wise string to leave dangling. Maybe someone used my account, he says in a voice that is slow and endlessly drawling. Over the next 15 minutes, the guy gives me nothing. His replies are so lethargic and stunted that I find myself leaning forward in my chair, watching his mouth, fascinated, and I start to ask myself if his tongue is even working, making the right shapes, because I can't seem to hold on to any of his words. Then the interview is over, and I stand, trying to control my ragged breath and blood rushing to my head. Such untrained talent. I've got your number, I say. The man scoffs audibly. He thinks he's passed the test. He won't recognize me at first when I turn up at Malone's without my uniform. Won't recognize the hunger in my eyes. But this guy wants more than pockets. They all do. Soon enough, after I work him a little, he'll let down his guard. My time, finally, to play the real game.
This story was inspired by another story that I read called I Live Two Lives by Jack Halliday on thestoryshack.com. And in that story, we follow a serial killer who is getting therapy, and in the end, it's revealed that he is a serial killer himself. And I wanted to try my hand at a twist ending like this because I hadn't really practiced twist endings before. But as you can see from the story that you just heard, it didn't really work out, and the character took me in a different direction. I tried to write the story in 60 minutes, but in the end it took me 2 hours and 57 minutes. I recorded all of that, and you can watch me write it word for word on my second channel. The ending word count was 588 words. But I needed to learn from my mistakes in my previous story, AI at the Top. And the first thing that I did wrong in that story was that I started the story with really lame, boring, dry dialogue and confusing stage directions with a total of 3 characters introduced within the story and some movement that I don't think was clear enough for the readers. I also don't think I went deep enough into the character's point of view in that story, and I tried to do differently today, and I think I was successful in that. And finally, I gave the reader too many dots to connect in the end of my previous story, and I'm not sure that the ending was really impactful or clear enough for most readers to piece together. So I wanted to make the ending in today's story less ambiguous and more impactful, and I think I was successful in that. I've got 3 drafts of the story to show you today, one for 30 minutes into the writing, one for 1 hour 27 minutes in, and one for 2 hours and 57 minutes in. Let's take a look at what the story looked like after 30 minutes. As you can see, I had a complete first draft with the twist ending that I was hoping to execute, but all the paragraphs were the same length and needed variation. There was this weird transition into the point of view character's past. He was this kid who used to scam people on his paper route, and while I feel like that is an interesting character to explore more in another story, it didn't kind of make sense in this story. The backstory was jarring, and it was like I was forcing it upon the character as a way to meet the twist ending that I wanted to in the end. This was the first sign that the main character was not who I was telling him to be. I also needed to work on the dialogue in the first draft to showcase the psychological battle between the detective and the suspect. As you can see here, the dialogue was bland with parts missing. Here's what it looked like after 1 hour and 27 minutes. I had deleted the jarring backstory, and there's almost no dialogue now in this section. Dialogue often comes last for me when I'm writing because I'm still figuring out what's happening and I need to know what the characters are thinking. I'm still figuring out who the characters are. So what they're going to say in a certain situation is really something that I can heighten at the end of the draft. The detective kept saying that the suspect was special and rare, but I hadn't yet shown it to the reader. The twist ending really wasn't working. I thought that I could just make the character a really brilliant, competent detective, and then at the end, when I revealed that he is also one of the con men that he hates, it would be surprising and satisfying. But that wasn't true. There was no setup because I deleted the scammer backstory, and nothing my character was saying gave any indication that he was a criminal himself. So the twist ending really was a surprise, but in a confusing and bad way. Also, note the ambiguous language that I used at the end here, and yeah, it's confusing writing. When I considered adding clues or red herrings, I again felt a lot of resistance. I somehow knew that it would become a different story with a different character. It really seemed like there was only one way to write this character. He was so strong in my mind. He was shouting at me that he was a competent detective. Look in my first line. Why would he call another con man a scumbag? He hates him. The detective is not a scumbag himself. The ending almost seems to come out of nowhere because it wasn't true to the character, and I think ultimately my instincts and gut were screaming at me that this was a very competent police detective and not a moonlighting criminal. And here's what the story looked like after 2 hours and 57 minutes. It's completed! After all that, I was quite pleased with the end result. It was definitely better than the previous story AI at the top. The original name for this story was The Real Game, as you can see, and I've changed it to fit YouTube. In my next video, I'm going to make sure to give the reader enough information to make their own conclusions about the ending. Check out my next video.